Mallory forced to move at least 67 times. Carnell remembers at least 30 moves. Both are part of an alarming trend of foster children who were never given a stable home. Dave Savini and the CBS 2 investigators undertook a massive project, digging through the records of every foster child dating back 20 years.
I had lots of bruises and scars. I still have some scars from being a child.
The few pictures Mallory Stout has from her childhood don't tell the story of her pain and torture.
I was starved. I was locked in a bathroom. I was
Locked in a bathroom, how?
I was held in a bathtub with a baby gate over it.
A baby gate rigged over a bathtub to keep her confined in her own home.
I was essentially caged and treated like an animal.
What was the triggering event that somebody contacted DCFS and said, I think this child is being abused?
I repeatedly would eat out of the garbage can at my daycare because I wasn't getting enough at home.
By the age of 4, she was hospitalized. Medical records reveal evidence of abuse and neglect, numerous bruises. She even told staff she was shot by a BB gun. Then taken into protective custody by DCFS, the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, and sent to a foster family.
Everything was safe, everything was stable, everything was good. It was the perfect family.
But that foster mom became ill. Mallory had to be removed, and DCFS, the system responsible for her welfare, failed to ever find her a stable home. She's just one of tens of thousands of children we found stuck in a cycle of repeatedly being moved.
Just one day, they picked me up from school, and they just dropped me in another place.
A pattern began of ripping her away from one placement after another. Often her belongings stuffed in garbage bags as she was shipped to different homes, shelters, facilities, and forced to change schools as she was moved across the state.
In the middle of the night, they just dropped me off at this DCFS worker's house.
We first met Mallory 4 years ago.
There's no reason why we should be receiving more abuse within the system than we receive within our own homes.
She's part of a group of 14 DCFS survivors speaking out to try to stop the agency's destructive pattern.
Overall, do you know how many?
No,
Lost count?
pretty much.
DCFS records we uncovered reveal she spent 17 years in DCFS and was moved at least 67 times.
That's a sad statistic, but it's the norm. I mean, we know that it's the norm. We know that multiple placements are the norm.
She says her moves from foster homes to institutions were followed by neglect and more abuse.
I'm 36 years old. I have nothing.
Leaving a lifelong mark on her.
Because being in care, it was wiped away slowly. Through every placement, something more was gone. And at the end, you have nothing.
Mallory's path in the system should have been much different. Back in 1991, at the same time she was first taken into DCFS custody, a federal court ordered DCFS to follow this consent decree. It laid out systemic failures, and DCFS was told to stop the practice of moving children repeatedly. DCFS keeps data on the history of all the children that come into their care, tracking how often they are moved. We found Mallory is far from alone.
That's all the kids in care.
That's sad.
The CBS 2 investigators fought more than a year for that data, and through the Freedom of Information Act, finally obtained it. Because it is so complicated to understand, we created this visualization.
And that's you.
Yeah.
We made a dot for every foster child, about 150,000 in care since the year 2000. We tracked every time they had to pack up and move between foster homes, shelters, group homes, institutions, and hospitals. Every child's name removed and instead assigned an identification number.
1729599.
That's Mallory's number, and like her, we found so many children ripped from one place and forced into another. Nearly 62,000 kids. 41% of the children in the system moved 4 times or more. Over 7,000 kids were moved 20 times or more.
What about that one?
Moved 49 times.
We found 927 kids moved 49 times. And sadly, like Mallory, 320 children moved at least 67 times, 44 kids an astounding 100 times.
There's this really horrific kind of cycle that goes on. If something is not done to be able to intervene in that, you can have these kids with 20, 30 different placements.
Dr. Michael Naylor is a psychiatry professor at the University of Illinois, Chicago. He runs mental health programs through a DCFS contract.
There's too few specialized foster homes and therapeutic foster homes. There's too few group homes and residential facilities.
He says multiple placement disruptions cause huge trauma.
The ones that we see, all of them are carrying scars that they're going to be carrying with them the rest of their lives.
Were you ever abused in the system?
Oh, yes, plenty of times.
Carnell Brown also knows the trauma of moving.
How many homes were you in?
I say about 30. I really moved around a lot.
When you go from home to home, does it make it hard to keep relationships?
I try not to get too attached to people.
I think central to all of the difficulties here are the disruptions in relationships that these kids have.
What kind of damage does that do to a child?
It does a lot of damage.
We found so many children languishing. The data shows more than a third of kids in care, about 53,000, spent 4 or more years in DCFS, and almost 10,000 kids spent a staggering 10 years or longer stuck in the DCFS system. Carnell spent 15 years in DCFS, and the data shows he's got plenty of company. At least 2,500 kids did the same.
Have you lost friendships over that?
Oh yeah, a lot of friends. I have no one that I can really call my friend.
Mallory still struggles with the abuse she suffered too. In one home, when she was 9, she was severely punished for wetting the bed.
They removed my bed and made me sleep on the bars of the bunk bed.
She was then beaten, and a special friendship bracelet was ripped off her ankle. It was made by a friend Mallory had to leave during one of her 67 moves.
Something that small can mean a lot.
Bracelet kind of represented a lot of things.
Yeah. But it's honestly, it's just, it's the cost of being in care.
Mallory now has 3 children of her own. Her biggest fear, one of them becoming another dot.
So those dots on the map mean something.
Yeah.
They're a person, they're a life. There's a whole history behind each of those dots. All of those are one of me.
On average, kids in other states get out of the foster care system in about 15 months. But the DCFS data shows Illinois kids spend more than double that amount of time. Dave Savini, CBS 2 Investigators.